Lions TV, this is the Den Daily, bringing you all the latest gossip, views and transfer news from in and around the Den. Good morning from a beautifully sunny Alunda on the island of Crete. I brought my equipment with me because with the players going back to pre-season this week, I was expecting it to all kick off, and it did do yesterday with lots of news coming in early. And as I said, I expect this to follow now, which we'll get into very, very shortly. If you haven't seen our socials, we will be live streaming from this sensational view tomorrow morning again. I'm 2 hours ahead of you, so it's going to be about 8:45 UK time. I think it starts at 9, or the fixtures come out at 9. So if you haven't already, by the way, please follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I can use that graphic there that's on the screen for the very last time, hopefully tomorrow, because we're closing in on 25,000 subscribers. We are only 22 away, and I'm hoping to pass that live on air. Right, let's get back to SE16, a long way away from beautiful Crete, and talk about the first bit of news that come through the door yesterday. It was expected. We had heard whispers and murmurs of it, and it is that the first signing is through the door for the 25-26 season. Max CROCOMBE, the goalkeeper, has left Burton Albion and joined us on a free transfer. Now, I'm going to veer off in a minute like I sometimes like to do, and I'm going to say this. Okay, we need a lot of players. Jensen's out long-term till Christmas, I think, with his Achilles injury that he picked up at the back end of last season. George Evans yet to sign a contract as well, by the way. We lost Ethan Wadley through retirement, and Dylan Adair was also released. So we are very thin on the ground with goalkeepers. We wanted to keep Liam Roberts, of course we did, but obviously for reasons that I've given in previous videos, which is pretty obvious anyway, he decided to leave the club once his contract expired, and he's joined League 2 Mansfield. So we definitely need goalkeepers, and CROCOMBE is the first one through the door. A little underwhelming, potentially, yes. That was my first reaction. But I had a conversation yesterday on the group chat with the boys, and veering off, like I said, I was going to do. Ryan Wintle. Now, if Ryan Wintle came back to the club, Savills left, we'll get onto that shortly, and I think as Richard Cowley said, we're after 2 central midfielders. If one of those central midfielders was Ryan Wintle, okay, I wouldn't mind that. I quite like Wintle. And look, I'm not saying put Ryan Wintle in the first team and he's going to tear down trees and we're going to get promoted automatically with him. What I'm saying is, as we know, especially with our suspensions and more so injuries are very, very likely. And when you get to January and we've got maybe a first choice out, and then another one has to come off and we need more legs in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes of a game, in SE16 or away from home, we need to see it over the line. Ryan Wintle to come on and do that role, I wouldn't mind that. So CROCOMBE, the signing, he's an experienced goalkeeper. He's never ever played in the Championship. He's had a very long career. He doesn't very much sound like he's from New Zealand as well. He is their international. He is their number one. But as you can see on the screen there, CROCOMBE has had a long career. He sort of come to England, went back to Australia, I think it was, then come back again, and it's sort of, that's where he's progressed for Salford City in the National League North, helping them win promotion. After that, he moved on to Australia, like I said, before coming back to England. He had 2 seasons with Grimsby, 2 seasons at Burton, before arriving in SE16 yesterday. They did want to keep him Burton, and look, I'm not saying he's going to be first choice. Again, Richard Cowley said he expects us to go back into the market for another goalkeeper, but he will bring a wealth of experience across all the divisions, where I'm expecting George Evans to potentially go out at some point and play. So it's a good signing. I don't think he's going to be the first choice goalkeeper, but like I just said with Wintle, it's horses for courses. We do need these type of players through the door. We definitely need goalkeepers through the door, and I expect him to be understudy for whoever also comes through the door, hopefully. I would love Freddie Woodman, but I don't think it's going to happen. Rumours of him going to sort of be third choice at Manchester United, etc. So Max CROCOMBE, first signing, through the door, free transfer. Like I said, his highlight reel is very good. Not as good as Yuri Skalax, but near enough. And for me, it's not a bad sign at all. Underwhelming, that was my first reaction. It might be some of yours as well, seen it in our comments. But look, it is what it is. We need players. We need a big squad. Football squads in this day and age just seem to grow and grow. And I'm thinking we need probably, through people that have gone out the door, probably another 6, 7, maybe even 8 players to come in. But Max CROCOMBE is the first signing of the 25-26 window. Next up, some more good news as far as I'm concerned. It is that Danny McNAMARA has signed a new contract. Sav's left, and we're going to get on to Honeyman after this. But there was a few first-teamers that were still yet to sign new deals for the coming season. Now, Danny McNAMARA, of course, come through the ranks at Millwall, and on that basis, and the fact that I think, you know, you can say, oh, he's proper Wall, he's a Millwall fan, which he is. He's an avid Millwall fan as well as his family. That can play into it, but even that aside, you know, he deserves his chance to prove himself, his fitness. He came through the ranks, went out on loan to St Johnstone, and then was brought back after doing really well. I think he made his debut against Bournemouth, was it? In the FA Cup, and then he went from strength to strength, and there was talk of QPR or Southampton, and was he going to sign a deal, or was he going to move on from the club? And then he done a Billy Mitchell. They both done it. They both come in. They was both the flavour of the month, and then bit by bit they sort of fell out of favour with the fans. I think that's fair to say. I don't think either of them would argue with that. And under Gary Rowett, you know, the formation that Rowett wanted to play and the players he had at his disposal, Danny McNAMARA was more of a right wing back now. He's an out-and-out brilliant defender. I think you'd be the first to say that his deliveries into the box ain't the greatest, and potentially that's why he struggled in the area. He's got the legs to do that role, but delivering balls into the box, we saw it time and again, that wasn't really his forte. And after Rowett left, and post Joe Edwards, we got Neil Harris back. Neil Harris, of course, knows Danny Mac from his previous spell at the club when he was coming through the youth academy and the system, and he nurtured Danny Mac, and he put him in his position, of course, under a Neil Harris regime and a Neil Harris structure and formation. He made him really, really strong again, and he performed really well at right back and at left back. Now, I think he's been very unfortunate. Of course, Ryan Leonard was player of the year, not season gone, season before, and Joe Bryan, of course, on big wages at the club, come from France, and he previously played at the top level. And I felt he had some fantastic performances under Neil Harris. I feel he's really unfortunate to sort of not get a start, but it's fantastic competition for him now to sign that new deal and to push Joe Bryan and to push Ryan Leonard. They're both good players. They're both aging, so they're not going to be there forever. And Danny Mac's 26, by the way. How's Danny Mac 26? Still thought he was about 18. Time flies. Anyway, but I should be more concerned. I'm 45. But yeah, good player. Really pleased. And he was always going to get that contract. Of course, he is currently out through a long-term injury. I think he did his cruciate. He did it in the same game that Ryan Leonard did his injury. Was it Cardiff at home? I think it potentially could have been. Player went round and he turned and his knee didn't go with him. He left it behind and it looked like a real painful one. So we wish him well in his rehab. This will help massively. And you know, I can't see anyone can have any reasoning behind saying he doesn't deserve a contract. 100% he deserves a contract for what he's put into the club through his loyal service throughout. He could have had the opportunity to leave and go to QPR and potentially other places, but he stayed and he's got his new deal. And I'm very excited to get him back and hopefully getting games. And like I said, pushing Ryan and pushing Joe Bryan for those first team places. And as we say, as time goes on, Danny Mac's still 26. And I think he's going to be a long-term servant to Millwall Football Club. I hope he is anyway, but it's fantastic news. Don't know the length of the contract, of course. That's a Millwall speciality. We never know how long it's for. But I would imagine, I reckon probably another year because of his injury, with the potential extension of another year, you know, if he makes X amount of appearances or the club want to exercise that right. But that's the second bit of news through the door. Two players, well, one player in, one player contracts extension. Now we move on to the final bit of news coming out of SE16 yesterday, and it's a player leaving. Unfortunately, I'm going to say it, for me, it's good news, and it's nothing against George Honeyman. Honestly, it isn't. You know, we're going to a different sort of place now, I think, a different bracket of player, and with Honeyman, Saville, Hutchinson, Murray Wallace, Liam Roberts, there's 5 players gone out the door, 5 first-team players, 4 of those with a lot of championship experience between them. I'm taking the positives that this is going to be a big, big summer. George Honeyman's departure was confirmed by the club. The 30-year-old midfielder will join the Seasiders upon the expiration of his Millwall contract. Following the conclusion of the 24-25 season, the club entered discussions with the midfielder regarding a new deal. However, George has opted to start a new chapter in his career with Blackpool. Honeyman leaves the club having made 117 appearances in all competitions, contributing to 15 goals in that time, scoring 3 and registering 12 assists since his arrival from Hull in June 2022. Now, I did slag him off, of course I did, because I got frustrated, you know, in game time and, you know, in the heat of the moment. And he wasn't the greatest footballer in the world, but what you can say for George Honeyman is he always gave everything he had, even if that wasn't fantastic at times. Actually, I think he may have finished last season as our highest assister with a sister, is that a word? With 5 goals. 5 assists. I wish he had got 5. He probably should have got 5 goals. QPR away, she definitely should have got 1. But he didn't. So, look, he was utilised in various positions. Some people saying, well, give him a chance in centre mid. You know, that's his position because, you know, he played on the wing a lot and did the sort of the tucking back in, the Andreas Vogel, Samaral as well, you know, who was a striker under Rowett. They both got sort of, why do I keep doing this, compressed back in to sort of defend high lines and be compact. He did that throughout his Millwall career. And like I said, I'm not going to knock him for effort, but no, not in the centre midfield, especially not the way that we're going now, not for me. So we wish him all the best. He has left the club, and like I said, it's more wages freed up and also another player, experienced player out the door. So I'm expecting us and hopeful that we're going to have a very big summer coming up. And that is your lot for this midweek roundup show. I wasn't expecting to do it, but I have done it. Hope you enjoy your, what day is it, Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday today. And Thursday, tomorrow morning, we will be live streaming. I think it's a 9 a.m. start or 9 a.m. release for the fixtures. But keep your eye on the socials and I will brief you on there about tomorrow's stream. Please subscribe to Lions TV. Come on, you Lions.